Take two Telegram accounts. Same age, same profile, same exact behavior. Registered the same day, doing the same things. One stays healthy for months, the other gets limited in a week. When this happens, the difference almost always comes down to one thing nobody looks at: the IP address each account connects from. Your IP is a starting score, and you inherit it before you've sent a single message. So let me explain how that works and what to do about it. I run managed Telegram hosting on dedicated hardware here in Singapore, real handsets on real carrier SIMs, and I see the link between IP and account trust every day. This isn't about evading anything, it's trust hygiene. A clean, stable, believable IP lets a legitimate account behave like the legitimate account it is. A dirty or unstable one makes the same account fight uphill for trust it should have had for free. Here's the plan: how IP reputation actually works and why the platform cares. The three kinds of IP: data center, residential, and mobile, and why they're not equal. Shared pools and why other people's behavior becomes your problem. IP rotation and why moving around quietly sabotages trust. Then how to check what you're on and what a clean mobile IP actually buys you. Start with the why. Telegram, like every large platform, fights automated abuse at scale. A huge share of that abuse comes from cheap infrastructure, data centers, and proxy farms, because that's where you can spin up 1,000 connections for a few dollars. So the platform learned reasonably that connections from certain kinds of addresses are far more likely to be abusive than connections from others. It builds reputation around IP ranges. When your account connects, the address it comes from already carries history, and that history shapes how cautious the system is with you before you do anything at all. That's the key idea. IP reputation is a starting score. A clean address means you start with the benefit of the doubt. A flagged address means you start under suspicion, and you have to earn your way out of it with perfect behavior, if you can at all. Two identical accounts on different IPs are not running the same race. Now the three kinds of IP, because the differences are large. First, data center IPs. These come from hosting providers, cloud servers, and most commercial VPNs. They are cheap, fast, and stable, but they're also the lowest trust because almost no real human browses Telegram from a data center. Real people use phones and home connections. So a data center IP is, by its nature, an unusual place for a genuine user to be, and the platform treats it that way. If your account lives on a VPS or a typical VPN, this is the bucket you're in. Second, residential IPs. These are the addresses home internet connections use. They carry much more trust than data center ranges, because real people genuinely connect from them. The catch is that many residential proxy services route many accounts through the same residential addresses, which drags the trust back down, and some of those pools are sourced in ways that get them flagged anyway. A clean residential IP is good. A residential proxy pool shared with 1,000 other accounts is not the same thing. Third, mobile IPs. These are the addresses phones get from carriers. They carry the highest trust of all, and the reason is structural. Carriers assign the same pool of addresses to enormous numbers of real subscribers, and those addresses change hands among real people constantly. The platform literally cannot afford to treat a carrier mobile range as suspicious, because doing so would punish millions of genuine users. So a real mobile IP gives you the strongest possible cover. You look like exactly what the largest, most trusted group of users looks like. Now shared pools, because this is where people get burned without understanding why. When you use a cheap proxy or VPN, you are usually not alone on that IP. Dozens or hundreds of other accounts share it. That means you inherit their behavior. If someone else on your shared IP is running abuse, spamming, or getting accounts banned, the address picks up a bad reputation, and that reputation lands on you. You can behave perfectly and still get limited because of who you share an address with. This is the single most common reason a careful operator's account dies for no apparent reason. The reason is real, it's just not visible from inside your account. Then there's rotation, which is the opposite failure. Some setups, especially rotating proxies and VPNs that switch exit nodes, hand your account a new IP constantly. People assume changing IPs makes them harder to track, so it must be safer. For Telegram, it's backwards. A real person's phone keeps roughly the same IP for long stretches or moves between a small, sensible set of them. An account whose IP jumps to a new country every hour looks like a session being passed around or a tool hiding its tracks. Stability reads as human. Constant rotation reads as evasion. The trust you're trying to build resets every time the address changes. Let me make the shared pool problem concrete, because it's the one that feels unfair and the one that ends the most accounts. Picture a cheap residential proxy service. They sell access to a pool of, say, a few hundred residential IPs, and they have thousands of customers. That math means at any moment, many customers are exiting through the same handful of addresses. Now suppose a dozen of those customers are running aggressive automation, getting accounts banned daily. Every ban teaches the platform a little more that those specific addresses are trouble. You, doing everything carefully, connect through one of those same addresses tomorrow, and you inherit the accumulated suspicion of every reckless person who used it before you. You never did anything wrong, you just stood in the wrong line. And because you can't see who else is on your IP, you have no way to know this is happening until your account gets limited and you are left blaming your own behavior, which was fine. This is also why the price of an IP solution tells you something real. The cheaper the shared pool, the more accounts are crammed onto each address, and the worse the inherited reputation tends to be. A dedicated IP that only your account uses costs more precisely because nobody else's behavior touches it. You're paying for exclusivity, and what exclusivity buys you is that your IP's reputation reflects only your own actions. That's worth a lot because it turns your IP from a liability you can't control into a clean slate you do control. Now let me connect rotation back to warming because the two interact in a way that wrecks new accounts. A fresh account spends its first weeks building trust, and a huge part of that trust is the platform seeing a consistent session from a consistent place. If that account is on a rotating IP, every session resets the location story. 1 hour is in Singapore, the next in Germany, the next in Brazil. No real person's phone does that. So a new account on a rotating IP isn't just neutral, it's actively self-sabotaging during the exact period when it's most fragile. If you only fix one infrastructure thing for a new account, fix the rotation. Pin it to one stable address and let it build a real history there. So what should you actually do? First, find out what you're on. There are simple sites that show your current IP and whether it's classified as data center, residential, or mobile, and whether it appears on any abuse block lists. Check the IP your Telegram account actually connects through, not just your browser, because if you're on a proxy or VPN, those can differ. If it comes back as data center or shows up on block lists, that's your problem found. Second, prefer a stable IP over a rotating one, always, for a Telegram account. Third, if you can put the account on a real mobile IP that doesn't rotate and isn't shared with a crowd of other accounts, you've removed the single biggest invisible risk to its trust. Let me be concrete about what a clean, stable mobile IP buys you, because it's not abstract. It means your account starts with the trust of the most legitimate user group on the platform. It means you're not inheriting some stranger's ban history. It means the platform sees a consistent session from a believable place, day after day, which is itself a trust signal. And it means that when something does go wrong, you can rule out the infrastructure as the cause, because you know it's clean and focus on your actual behavior. Most operators can never do that because they genuinely don't know whether the problem was them or the IP. With this, I may address a question this always raises, which is whether the location of the IP matters or just its type. It's mostly the type and the reputation, not the country, but location matters at the edges. If your account registered in one country and then suddenly connects from the other side of the world every day, that geographic whiplash is itself a small signal, the same way rotation is, because real people don't usually teleport. So consistency of location matters alongside consistency of address. A stable IP in a sensible single location reads as a person who lives somewhere. An IP that's stable but in a country that makes no sense for the account, or that keeps changing countries, undercuts the believability. The ideal is a stable, high-trust IP in a location that stays consistent for the life of the account. You're not trying to be anywhere in particular. You're trying to be somewhere, consistently, the way a real person is. There's also a practical reason mobile beats residential even when both are clean, which is carrier-grade addressing. Mobile carriers route huge numbers of subscribers through shared pools of addresses, which means a single mobile IP genuinely has many real humans behind it at different times. The platform knows this, so it can't punish a mobile range without hitting real users, which gives mobile IPs structural protection that even a clean residential IP doesn't fully have. A residential IP usually maps to one household. A mobile IP maps to a crowd of real people. When you want to be indistinguishable from legitimate users, being in the largest crowd of legitimate users is the strongest place to stand. This is the half of account safety that no amount of careful behavior can fix on its own. You can warm an account perfectly, set every privacy toggle, never send a repetitive message, and still lose it because the address underneath it was poisoned. The behavior is yours to run. The infrastructure is either solved or it isn't. That's exactly what we solve. Telegram Vault is managed Telegram hosting on dedicated Singapore hardware. Real handsets on real carrier SIMs from Singtel, M1, StarHub, and Vivify, with a stable, non-rotating mobile IP that isn't shared across a crowd of accounts. Your account lives on a real phone on a real carrier in Singapore with the single highest trust IP category there is, and it stays put rather than jumping around. You run the behavior, and the IP, the one thing you usually can't see and can't control, is clean and stable by design. If you want that, start at telegramvault.org. Onboarding begins with a real conversation about your setup, not a checkout page, and the code TGYT gets you a discount when you start. If this explained why your accounts kept dying for no reason, subscribe, because the next video covers running multiple Telegram accounts safely, the right way to keep them separate so one problem doesn't take down the rest. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.